Back in the days of yesteryear, also known as 1987, Capcom released a game that, despite its questionable box art, still went on to spawn multiple sequels and become a massive hit for the company in their earlier days. I'm talking, of course, about
Mega Man.
Mega Man! Mega Man!
Mega Man would be one of their best long-lasting series, which undoubtedly will have a lot of ups and downs throughout the years. But with the new Super Nintendo on the rise, Capcom needed to bring Mega Man into the 16-bit era in a new, dynamic fashion. And so, Capcom created a spin-off of their classic Blue Bomber for a new generation, Mega Man X.
And bless their hearts for it. I love the original Mega Man games, but I f***ing love the Mega Man X series.
Even though we would see newer Mega Man titles such as Mega Man 7 and Mega Man Soccer, X allowed for a change in the Mega Man formula, giving us an exciting new spin on a classic series.
It took everything that the original series had established and then took them to their next logical steps. A futuristic setting built on the world of the original games? Check. Bigger, badder, more intricately designed bosses? Check. Soundtrack that hits it out of the park game after game? Check. Kick-ass new armor and upgrades that encourage exploration? Check, check, and check.
From a lore perspective, it expanded on the mythos of robot free will, left a lot of questions as to what happened to the original Blue Bomber, and even gave Dr. Wily a bit more of a villainous streak with the introduction of everyone's favorite character, Zero.
When at its best, the series is capable of giving us some of the most memorable gaming experiences some of us have ever had. At its worst, well, we'll get to that. Today, we're going through every damn one and ranking them.
Except for X-Dive. We don't have any time for any of that gachapon bullshit. And mind you, this is a list that includes X7.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Kevin.
We're Haruokay, and these are our top 10 Mega Man X games.
Number 10. Oh man, X7. Mega Man X7.
Look, we don't mean to start off with a downer, but there's a limited amount of Mega Man X games out there. Sometimes the bottom is just the bottom. So let's just get this one the hell out of the way right now. I have never seen a game destroy a decade of goodwill quicker and more aggressively than Mega Man X7. The game aged like milk. Milk that I recently forced Kevin to drink by asking him to capture the footage for this section.
From the start, we're given our introduction to the new character, Axel. I hope you like Axel, because we're going to be using him and Zero, and we're also going to have a half hour of unskippable cutscenes. Yes, after the first demo level, it is almost a solid 30 frustrating minutes before you even get to see this stage select screen. The first level shows us just how lovely the 2D and 3D works for X7, and to be fair, it is not that bad. Controlling Axel from the start allows us to get a good feel for the movement of the game, and just as we're feeling very comfy, it happens. X7's worst sin.
The 3D camera.
You are thrown into what is some of the most frustrating 3D controls I have ever had to deal with in a Mega Man game. Why does it feel like I'm walking in soup? And what the hell is going on with this camera? It's just complete nonsense navigating this game in a 3D space. Now, not every stage has the 3D sections, and that is the only bit of mercy this game is going to give you. Like I said before, the 2D sections of this game are passable, if not fun at times, but I cannot get over the 3D sections of this game. It's just so mind-boggling, especially when you consider that Mega Man has been in 3D before with Mega Man Legends on the PS1. It had an adjustment to get used to, but it fared far better than this janky-ass nonsense. I know people have a big hate on for X6, and I have my thoughts on that game, but I didn't hate it too much. Tim, on the other hand...
Oh, you're goddamn right!
We'll get to that. But this game just had far more promise, and it just disappointed me in such a big way. Like, I pre-ordered this game when it came out. I had such hype for X7. I really wanted to love this game. And I didn't even touch on the worst part of the game. The absolute worst part of Mega Man X7. Its most deadly of sins. You see, Mega Man X7 brings back the Mega Man X6 rescue Reploids. one-time deals where if you see them and they die, they are gone forever. And you need them to get upgrades, additional life ups, access to Mega Man X7's unlockable character before the final stages. See, in order to play as this classic character from the Mega Man X franchise, you need to save 64 Reploids, or beat all 8 Mavericks, and you get to play as the fan-favorite character of the series, Mega Man X. As I was ripping my hair playing this again for a video, there is a story reason for him being gone. X is a pacifist by nature and is tired of the murder and the gaining of the cool weapons from the corpse of the murder. Anyway, burn Heinyard. I am done with this game. Next, please.
Sorry, I probably owe you a beer for this. Number 9. Mega Man X6. There are more than a dozen official releases in the Mega Man X franchise, and this is the only one that feels unfinished. Mega Man X6 was the final Mega Man X release on the PlayStation 1, but instead of improving upon what came before it like Mega Man X4 did, and Mega Man X5 sort of did, Mega Man X6 takes a mighty swing, misses, shits itself, then laughs at you for also not being covered in shit. Okay, let's walk it back a step. The story follows the aftermath of X5, with X now facing new threats including a mad Reploid scientist named Gate, his Zero-obsessed assistant Isaac, and their new, seemingly indestructible Reploid hunter, Hymax. The game used cutscenes with still images and dialogue text that could have used a few extra passes through a proofreader. Woof. They also apparently didn't have the time or budget for English voice acting, so the voiceover is Japanese only. Of course, this came out around the time I really started getting into anime, so if anything, it might have been one of the only things that enhanced the experience for me. Mind you, there are some improvements here. Alias voice calls are now optional with a press of the right analog stick, which is a huge improvement over the previous entry's pace-breaking interruptions. Also, it starts you off with the Falcon armor, which is a nice touch. It's a nerfed version of the armor that actually prevents flying, but it's better than nothing, I guess. It also features a heavier focus on rescuing Reploids. You get a list of everyone you saved, along with upgrades and health bonuses you obtain from some along the way. So basically a lot of your upgrades come from saving Reploids from a tentacle assimilation. Anyways. Oh, and do you enjoy getting all 8 weapons before going to the end stages? Well, you, here's some more Hymax. Oh, and that's not even the end of it. I went back through Infinity Minginian stage 3 times to fight him and get the last Maverick weapon. Except the game registers it as beaten from the Hymax fight, and it keeps putting you in a fight against Dynamo instead. 3 times. So yes, I have actual contempt for this game. It's shovelware in a Mega Man X costume. It feels like it was shipped out by accident. It's like having your partner of 6 years get bitten by a vampire, and the only powers they got were forgetting their own name and running in the walls. It makes you feel like the series died back in X5 and somehow got buried in Stephen King's Pet Sematary. It fell on its face harder than... Number 8. As longtime X fans were probably aware coming into this video, there are only 8 main console entries in the Mega Man X series, and this is a top 10 video. So of course we had to give the Game Boy Color titles some love on this list. We were only going to put Mega Man Xtreme 2 on here, but after adding both X6 and X7 to this list, it felt wrong to exclude an objectively better title. So we're counting both Mega Man Xtreme titles for our number 8 spot. First, Mega Man Xtreme 1, Game Boy Color. There are 2 Mega Man X games that I just sort of keep forgetting exist, even though they're objectively great for the hardware they were released on.
Kinda like the Mega Man Game Boy games, solid titles that both tread common ground between the main series releases, but have a bit of a lovely flair of their own.
You once again play as X as he fights his way through the inside of Maverick Hunter HQ's supercomputer. You'll fight through a mix of Maverick bosses from X1 and X2, only you'll be fighting them in the form of data. Yeah, it's a portable adaptation of a beloved Japanese property where you fight through the data versions of bosses from the home console games. This game did Chain of Memories before Chain of Memories was even a thing. Bravo. But if you've never played it before and are wondering how Mega Man X translates to the Game Boy Color, the answer is pretty f***ing well, actually. The controls don't feel quite as smooth as its SNES counterpart, but for a Game Boy Color title, it more than gets the job done. This game still feels great to play. Not perfect, but damn close.
Capcom had this weird knack for taking games with some complex controls and 6-button control styles and found a way to simplify them for the portables at the time, like Street Fighter II on Game Boy, or Super Street Fighter II Remix, or Street Fighter Alpha on the Game Boy Advance.
You'll fight through all 4 levels and bosses before going through the requisite Sigma levels. Along the way, you'll even get all the regular heart tanks, sub-tanks, and armor parts you'd expect from an X title. Yes, even the Hadoken and the Shoryuken. What I really loved about Mega Man Extreme, though, was the post-game content. Once you've cleared the game, you unlock Hard Mode, which, yes, is harder. But in addition to keeping all of your upgrades from the first playthrough, you'll also be fighting 4 new stages and Mavericks from Mega Man X1 and 2. And you can unlock Zero attacks, which is always great. Just remember to use your save file to continue into Hard Mode and not select it raw from the main menu. I made that mistake and started the next part of the game without any of the previous run's upgrades. And it definitely made Hard Mode live up to its name. It's not a long playthrough, especially if you're familiar with X1 and X2 enough to remember where all the upgrades are. Mega Man Extreme 1 was both fun as hell and a great example of what the Game Boy Color was capable of as a handheld. It's even good enough for me to forgive the multiple unskippable cutscenes, something I usually consider to be a cardinal sin in most video games. If you've played through all the 16-bit Mega Man X games and still want more, or at least a different way to play the other ones again, then definitely check this one out. Also number 8, Mega Man Extreme 2, Game Boy Color. Having played this around the same time as playing X6, I was nervous to see what changes the sequel might bring.
X6 really did a number on you.
I know it's not fair to just assume they dropped the ball, but once bitten, etc. Mega Man Extreme 2 beats out the original Game Boy Color title in just about every way. For starters, it has an original story that serves as a sort of prequel to X4, which I mostly noticed because Iris is still here. You'll face off against a mix of Maverick bosses from the first 3 Mega Man X games. And then the obligatory end stages, of course, but with some interesting new bosses and characters to keep this from feeling just like another portable remix. That said, all the heart and armor upgrades stay the same and are mostly found in the same locations, save for a few exceptions. You won't get to see the armor until you have all 4 pieces, but once you do, it looks quite sick. Oh shit, Zero. How did I forget about Zero? Unlike the first Mega Man Extreme title that gave you a few attacks that treated Zero like a summon monster, this game gives Zero his own campaign and his own 4 Mavericks to fight. Plus his own set of moves and an armor set for good measure. That's pretty damn solid for a portable title.
Number 7. Mega Man X Command Mission. PlayStation 2 and GameCube. Peanut butter and chocolate, milk and cookies, hot summer's day and a cool drink. Some things just go great together. You know what else goes great? Mega Man X and RPGs. It's a stupid opening. Yes, that's right, folks. You too can enjoy what some Newground users could only dream of at the time. Enjoy a turn-based, decently fleshed out RPG, which includes our boy in blue. This isn't the first jaunt for a Mega Man series in the RPG format. We had the Battle Network games on the Game Boy Advance, which started in 2001, but Command Mission isn't a spin-off or an alternate universe, it's set in the world of Mega Man X. Oh wait, it might be in an alternate universe? X-lore is wacky. Anywho, in terms of gameplay, it's a turn-based RPG, similar to Final Fantasy X if I had to draw any direct comparison when it comes to the battle system. On the bottom right-hand corner, you have your order of turns, allowing you to strategize how you're going to use your party members effectively. Each party member has a unique action trigger which plays to their particular strength. You play a little mini-game, and you get a super cool attack, for example, like X with his charge shot, Zero with sword combos, Spider with drawing cards. Each character also has a hyper mode, which allows for more powerful attacks. And in the case of X and Zero, if you're able to find their secret transformations, just decimate bosses. In terms of story, it is not too deep. X and a team of Maverick hunters are called in to assist with a rebellion in a place known as Giga City, by a fellow by the name of Redips. Redips. That's important. This rebellion is led by cloaked Giga Chad Epsilon, who is just trying to get their hands on an item called the Supra Force Metal? Supra Force Metal.
Supra Force Metal! So that's what it is.
Jesus Christ. After the obvious betrayal by Shadow, the character clearly designed to be a villain, X is separated from Zero and through misadventures meets our colorful cast of party members. The story and the script, they're not the best, but it's fun and it's functional and it has a neat little rug pull and fun characters to choose from to form your party. All of whom are pretty much forgotten once Chapter 5 hits as Axel and Zero show up and the boys are back in town. Outside of the large amounts of random battles and B-tier story, it's a fun, not too challenging game which does offer some additional harder boss fights, which I did not do because this game can be a bit of a slog. You also have the Sky Room, which is a gallery of sorts for unlocked music, character and development sketches, challenges, and you can change X's scarf color. Actually, it's really cool. I love this Kamen Rider look he has going on here. Honestly, I spent like a good 5 minutes just switching different scarf colors to see what makes a difference. Doesn't change in battle, but whatever. Aesthetic is aesthetic. Now, this game also introduces us to the new voice cast, which seems a bit stilted here at times, but it might be due to the odd script and the wording choices. Still, you cannot go wrong with this title. It's a neat little detour for the X cast, and just don't expect too much in terms of story. Like, come on, Spider, Redips, it is so stupid. It's his name backwards, and he's the main villain, and they just murk the guy to give Zero reason to stay, and it's meaningless. Oh my god, whatever. Anyway.
Number 6.
Megaman X5, PlayStation 1.
The game where the cracks started the show. Mega Man X5 was a sequel that wasn't afraid to try a few new things. New upgrade mechanics, a story that has a ticking clock on beating all 8 Maverick bosses, and armor upgrades you could only equip once you had all 4 pieces. Reactions were mixed at the time, but I didn't mind it all too much. Except when I accidentally would launch the laser or shuttle by mistake. Whoops.
Well, I did replay X5 for the video. I actually played a hack copy, which lets you use the armor as you got the pieces, like in most X games. I actually did the same for X6, really took the sting out of that game. But for me, the game builds a lot on what X4 brought to the series, while trying some new gameplay elements that were really hit or miss.
A common complaint, and one of my own as well, is the addition of a navigator to the series. This was not something that the series ever needed, and man, does it not take long to figure that out while playing.
The hack made this option to turn on or off. All games need the option to turn off tutorials and pointless chatter. It is a huge quality of life change.
Alia will interrupt you several times a stage with info about the level you're in or the enemies you're facing. Most of it is obvious, some of it is tedious, and all of it is unnecessary. She'll tell you just about everything except how to duck, which is an addition so alien to me as a longtime fan, I was getting my ass handed to me by the early bosses, simply because having X stuck, anything, feels wrong to me as a player. Pace-breaking issues aside, there's a lot to love about X5. The Maverick designs are great here, and the names will probably give you a laugh, depending on the version you end up playing. Also, the story, while lacking the cutscenes of the previous entry, still gave us a satisfying telling of the destined battle between X and Zero. And it did not disappoint. And neither did that battle theme. Just try to remember to beat that countdown timer, or the few cutscenes that you do end up getting will just confuse the hell out of you.
This is supposed to be the swan song of the X series and lead directly into the Zero series on the GBA, so this could be why X6 and X7 kind of feel off. Honestly, it did have a very series finale feel to it, like a series that had weak ratings, so they wrote a final episode in a coke-binged afternoon.
I used to harp on some of these issues a lot more when the game was newer, but my eventual disdain for X6 and X7 has made me way more understanding of X5's less desirable elements. But even so, I still think that Mega Man X5 would have been a worthy send-off for the X series if Capcom agreed to end it just there and then. Of course, they did not do that, but I still think it's true. Number 5.
Mega Man X8, PlayStation 2. This game, oh my god, this game, it is such a breath of fresh air after running both X7 and Command Mission. And again, Command Mission's not a bad game, just want some classic X running and shooting. Let's get this right out of the way. I am not sure what happened between Command Mission and X8, but the voice cast, the writing, the general feel when it comes to the story here is far better than what we got during any of the PS2 era X games. From the Mavericks to Sigma to Vile. Yes, Vile's back. There's just so much more life and excitement to this game. It feels good. It feels so good. Redesigned character models. Everyone has this sleek, slender look to them. X's new armor design, while not one of his best looking armors, gives off this like Templar motif, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Tim, does that make sense?
Well, that's not a good sign.
In terms of lore, this is Sigma's swan song, which I am assuming here, as we haven't had a new mainline X game in a long time. Yes, I am aware of Mega Man X Dive, 100% aware. There's like a sense of finality, especially when you're facing off against our evil Mr. Clean here. Gameplay-wise, we no longer have to deal with the 3D camera anymore. It's gone. It's dead. We took it out back, put it in an alleyway, and just shot it right there. In terms of character growth and item acquisition, everything is tied to the R&D lab. So as you play through stages, you'll come across force medals and rare force medals. The standard force medals are our game currency, and the rare force medals are our unlocks for every character. Once you obtain rare force medals, head to R&D. Now you can buy your upgrades. There's no heart tanks. Your life bar and its max size are now tied to the difficulty level of the game and how much of these things you can buy. You still need to find the rare medals. However, some may require boss weapons or X's armor abilities. You do get 2 sets of armors, again, similar to X5 and X6. However, you're able to use the armors as soon as you get the first item, and you can mix and match weapon combinations. You won't get a Giga attack, but it does allow for a level of customization. Zero again has different weapons, but they are separate from his learned boss techniques, allowing for more varied gameplay. And if you play the New Game Plus, you actually unlock Sigma's sword, the item used from one of the final bosses. Very cool. Axel will get different guns from bosses. They don't use any weapon energy when shooting. The only thing that uses weapon energy for Axel is the DNA change, which has a lot more utility, allowing for stage exploration and the gathering of secrets. Speaking of secrets, you can unlock X's ultimate armor, or Black Zero, or Axel's hidden form. They all get one, and it's based on how you beat the end boss. For example, Axel with a team attack, or you can have all the upgrades like X and Zero. And if you start a save file from New Game Plus, you can also unlock your navigators. Yes, there are still navigators. However, each has a purpose, like telling you about a boss weakness or which enemies Axel can transform to, and Alia. Or you just have none and enjoy the sweet, comfortable silence of not having somebody ringing your ear every so often. We also see the return of the dual character gameplay, allowing you to switch between characters, and if one of your characters dies, it just doesn't end the stage. All in all, it's just a great game. And while it is the last X game we'll see in a long time, like so long, thankfully they went out in such a bang with a bit of a cliffhanger, but that just means hopefully we'll see it continue into another title. Like, I really hope we get another X title. Like, please, just give me a new game, no X dive, no gotcha bullshit, just give me a new game.
Number 4.
Mega Man X3. Super Nintendo.
The final entry in the original SNES trilogy, Mega Man X3 managed to add a few new things without breaking or straying too far from what worked before it.
Plus, I got a weird PS1 Saturn port in Japan and Europe with anime cutscenes for the opening, ending, and Maverick intros, which were neat. Also with remixed music that was also neat. I am still, to this day, unsure if I like those ports.
This time, you're up against Dr. Doppler and his 8 Maverick bosses. And if you think this guy is the real final boss, you probably haven't been paying attention. One thing Mega Man X3 noticeably does is increase the difficulty. The game's layout hasn't changed any. Intro stage, 8 Mavericks, a few castle stages before a boss rush ending in a final boss battle, but this game just feels more difficult somehow. Of course, if you're like me, you probably haven't got to play this game outside of a collection since the time it was available for less than $300.
Yeah, most of the collections, I know the PS2 one, uses the PS1 Saturn port of X3, which is fine, but it has like load times between stages, and why it plays fine, it just feels odd. maybe I just don't like these ports?
It's also the first time we see a Guns N' Roses reference inside of a Mega Man X game. The music from Neon Tiger stage is tremendously close to My Michelle from GNR. Of course, you might not notice, since later ports of this game replaced that track with something a bit more legally safe.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying about the ports.
I didn't miss it until it was gone.
However, if you are able to defeat Vile before you get to the Doppler stages, then Zero can fight the only mini-boss he's allowed to fight, and then he gets wrecked, but then you get my favorite unlock, the Zero Saber. It's like an extra charge when you're using the Buster, and it just melts bosses.
And that's to say nothing of the Hyper Chip and Gold armor, which is probably one of my favorite armors in Mega Man X. While most definitely not the best choice as a starting point in the Mega Man X, X3 maintains the quality of the series in a way that once you get used to it, probably won't burn you out on the franchise as a whole. As far as third entries go, that's more than a lot of other games can say. Number 3.
Mega Man X2, Super Nintendo. X2 was a constant rental when I was a kid. It was one of my comfort games for a long ass time, and was the first X game that I actually beat, so it does hold a special place in my heart. Like all sequels, it had a lot to live up to. X was just honestly a perfect game from its controls, stages, music, just overall polish. It was fantastic. How do you approve on that? With an air dash. X2 was the first of the X games to give us the standard dash from X1 as the default movement option, so right from the start of the game you get speed you need to succeed. In terms of stakes, now the Maverick Hunters are clearing out Sigma remnants, however, there is a new group of villains on the scene, the X Hunters. And they have 8 Mavericks of their own to take down X and bring sweet vengeance to their master Sigma. And they also stole Zero's parts. Guys! The Grave Robin. The biggest changes, besides the new armor, the new bosses, the new ride items, like the Ride Chaser and the new mech with its hover and spinny drill claws, is the use of the CX4 chip, which gives you pseudo 3D wireframes, which is used for some game assets and some bosses. The X-Hunter mid-bosses offer a new challenge. So after killing off 2 of the Maverick bosses, you'll start to see the X-Hunters move from stage to stage, hiding in hidden boss rooms. You need to defeat them before they stop showing up to get all of the Zero parts, and you get a very touching reunion. However, if you don't, you do get a pretty neat boss fight with Zero, playing in the background what I believe is probably the best Zero theme in the entire series. And seeing how Zero, in various fighting game appearances, uses this theme, I think Capcom agrees with me. Although the Zero theme in Mega Man Zero 2, also pretty good. The boss weapons are pretty useful, they have a fair amount of variety, but the best weapon, however, much like in X1, is the hidden capsule that requires you to unlock all of the hearts, all of the capsules, all of the sub-tanks, and after a harrowing journey in one of the X-Hunter stages, rewards you with a powerful uppercut. At full health, all you need to do is a quick forward, down, and then down forward, and watch bosses fall to the might of the Shoryuken. All in all, it's a solid game and a great follow-up to what is one of the best SNES games, bar none, which we are about to get to right about number 2. Mega Man X4. I lied, we're not there yet.
Gotta keep them guessing. There were some franchises that didn't have a great start out of the gate during the PS1 era. See Contra on the PS1 or Castlevania on the N64. But Mega Man X4 did not have those kind of problems. It took everything that worked, mainly 2D platforming, and kept it intact for the PlayStation, all while leveraging the power of the mighty PS1. Better graphics, an amazing soundtrack, cutscenes that were so poorly acted that they become legendary, and for the first time in the series, separate campaigns for X and Zero. Each character will have to go through the same 8 bosses, but now they have their own storylines, side characters, and boss weapons. Getting to play as Zero and having all of his boss weapons act as near infinite special moves really help make the gameplay experiences feel unique, even if armor upgrades are saved for X only.
X's gameplay felt natural, like he was always on the PS1. Smooth controls, a separate button for special weapons still allowing you to have access to your X-Buster, armor upgrades to the helmet that actually did something worthwhile, allowing for the ammo of special weapons to only go down if they're fully charged. Plus the hover allowed for some more interesting means to dodge bosses and maneuver around. 2 options for the X-Buster, a powerful plasma shot that would leave a stationary projectile that offered more damage, or a stock charge that allowed for 4 stocks to be charged, lesser power but some better utility. Then we have the Ultimate Armor, an unlock so nice they used it twice, and then again in X6, and once more in X8.
It's also got my second favorite Maverick roster of the entire series. They make every one of these guys feel like a genuine threat. From Slash Beast catching up to you on train by foot, to Magma Dragoon, who is essentially a Street Fighter character in a robot body. All good stuff.
When I first started playing, I started with Zero, and boy, that did not disappoint. Everything you know about Mega Man or Mega Man X games changes when you pick Zero. Now bosses that may have been pretty simple with X become almost like a fighting game. If you can master Zero's movement and abilities, it feels far more rewarding beating a level than with the standard X story.
While I've honestly never felt that the series went up from here, it's still amazing to look back and see just how right they got this on the first try. This game is to the PlayStation 1 what another certain game is to the SNES. Speaking of,
Number 1. Mega Man X, Super Nintendo.
as you've probably guessed by now, the original Mega Man X game is taking our number 1 spot. But there was some debate about it. X2 technically gives us everything X1 did, plus more. And X4 gave us 2 campaigns and cutscenes. But each edition came at the cost of something. If you've never played it before, it's very easy to miss the additional Zero content in X2. And X4 had, well...
Ah! No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
X1, on the other hand, it just had the right blend. Perfectly balanced. As all things should be. No matter where you are before Sigma's Fortress, everything is still open for grabs. Even the Hadoken. Oh, right, this game gives you the Hadoken. And also reveals that Dr. Light is a Shoto. Never saw that coming.
If right now I was to make a top 10 games list, X1 would not only be on that list, it would be in the top 5. That is how good I personally feel this game is. It completely changed the Mega Man formula, and it really didn't do all that much to do so. Right from the opening stage, you are thrown into a pit. You have no way out. That is until you realize you can climb up walls. Yes, just climbing up walls. For a Mega Man game, that's a huge game changer. It allows for more dynamic movement as well as new avenues for boss fights and stage design. Then, if you happen to start with Chill Penguin stage, you are given the second piece of the game-changing puzzle, the dash. And additionally, the whole armor concept. Now you have an increase in speed and movement. Watch the speed run, watch any speed run of Mega Man X and see just what you can do with this. It's insane. Just how 2 small changes can have a huge fundamental difference in gameplay. Lore-wise, we see the genesis of a hero who, unlike Mega Man and other mascot characters before them, doesn't really want to be a hero. While that doesn't really show in the gameplay, mind you, the story of X is that of a reluctant hero, and has always been part of his narrative, and just makes him more of a compelling character. You see his growth from a novice hunter into a hero, standing up against Sigma at his rebellion. If you're looking for a different change of pace, I would also highly recommend the PSP remake, Maverick Hunter X. Brings in the new voice cast from Command Mission and X8, and X's VA just goes hard. He does so well, much like he did in G Gundam. Yes, same voice actor as Domon Kashu. Tim, if you're able to play that little bit from before he fights Sigma the last time, my god, so good.
I'll finish this! Right here, right now! I will defeat you, Sigma!
I remember seeing early art for this game in an old GamePro and having a lot of reservations. But after playing it, it quickly became one of my favorites of all time. Still is.
It just hits different than the usual run-and-gun Mega Man game we were used to. And it's an excellent start to a franchise that is always trying to make the next game better, even though they knocked it out of the park on the very first try. This series has always had a special place in my heart, and X is what really brought out my love of all things Mega Man, and I really hope that we are able to share a little bit of that love with the rest of you. Wow. Whew. That was a list. Apologies from my end for this list taking so long, because I had to grab a lot of footage from a lot of different games, and Command Mission alone took a good chunk of time. Also X7, because like I know there's people that love the game, and you know there's probably something good about it, just not for me. But if you like the stuff that we do here, obviously click on the links below, take a look at some of our other stuff, look at our other top 10s. We have more coming. Thank you so much for all the love and support, and you know, do your YouTube things, do the things, and we'll see you in the next video. And as always, stay tuned.